Hey everybody, and welcome back to Empires of the Void 2, The Final Thoughts.
Ooh, Memories of the Metal Galaxy.
Memories of the Metal Galaxy.
Memories of the House Metal Galaxy. I think you'll find.
Beautiful land that we shall never revisit.
Ah, Corlozan.
It can blow your whistle and everything.
You're a complete waste of my time. I could not dislodge the Regency.
The Regency.
They had one tough cookie.
Yeah,
Sarkeen Regency.
I'm kind of curious as to how much you have to prepare to beat them.
Well, the thing is, though, if you went in with, like,
Everything.
Tanfu or Arzos, you would beat them easily because they're power 3. 3 of those guys, you'd be...
Well, yeah, three of those guys would be like, oh, that's the 9, and then it's the
Get
roll
out.
off from the card. But that's still... They could roll a 6, you might roll a 3, and then the card they flip randomly is a 3 or a 4. And you're still getting your butt kicked. It's
But
surprising.
if you're allied with the Tanfu, you get +1 attack power.
I know, but it is still surprising because it only because the game only requires you like I've got all these dice, and effectively, it's irrelevant. I rolled a 6. Screw
Yeah.
these,
Yep, so there is dice rolling, obviously.
which is quite.
That's a part of the combat.
Hmm.
So you were quite a combat-orientated race.
Despite not actually controlling many.
Which is quite
cards.
interesting because you didn't have actually that much. I think out of the three of us,
Hmm.
I can't quite remember now with the scoring, but you probably scored the least presence
Yeah.
on the board,
Yeah, because
even though you
I
attacked quite a bit.
I had Measle, I had Tanlock, I took Emrock, and then everything else was unoccupied or it was Corlozan and I lost. I didn't bother with anything else because you guys were really busy over there and really... I mean, I have a feeling I probably could have taken you and Mike depending on how I stacked the odds, but full strength I would definitely have been like, probably not. Because it took me a long time to get to that point where I could just be like, right, all the guys that can do something, and you had stronger allies.
Yeah.
So...
I feel it took me a while to get going.
There is like, I mean, there are obviously a whole bunch of different ways to get victory points. If I'd known the final 2 buildings were worth double victory points, I definitely would have worked more on these tracks. But it's interesting that I didn't work particularly hard on these tracks or on that, and I kind of wound up being a bit of an all-rounder with sort of fingers in every pie, and I still almost
Humans.
won.
Because this is where Ollie got the most of his points from, whereas we got more. But I say we. I was a little bit behind. You got a lot of your points from being on the board, and so it was just a different strategy that you went for.
So there is lots of different viable strategies, and actually, given the way you score when you play a colonization card at some point in the game, and you can actually choose to a degree when you play that, although it is kind of forced upon you just after halfway through the game.
Yeah.
That's really interesting. I mean, the timing of that card is obviously critical. I mistimed it, which cost me a bunch of points.
That basically cost you the game.
Yeah, but
I won by 1. That would have been 3 points you had. You'd have been 2 in front.
that's and that's
But you would not have known that.
well, I couldn't have known that.
Yeah.
But I think if I was ever teaching this to someone, I'd be like, when you play this colonization card, it's really important, but it's mostly important about this board presence, or if you're focusing on building, if you're focusing more on building stuff, it's less important because that can't really change.
No.
And I think actually just talking about the combat in the game, Ollie, because we're just mentioning that, it's really interesting because I quite like the fighting mechanic. I like that there's a dice bit, but you only use the highest number, which makes it feel more balanced. And I like that you can throw more. I mean, sorry, not more balanced. What I mean is less high variance.
Yes.
And I like that a lot. I like the secret card playing aspect. What I thought it was a little.
Says the guy who got Tanlock at the first opportunity.
It feels. You had Dunlock before me.
I know. I didn't know. I
Didn't
want
you? I don't know.
I
Anyway.
want psychics on my turn. I took them on delivery.
I want all the
But-
mind reading.
Yeah,
My
that was great.
well, I mean, and it allows you to optimize the use of your cards. But the thing is, I had to be more strategic about my cards because I had far fewer than you. But I think the what I was going to say about the combat, what that was interesting was that it doesn't feel particularly aggressive.
No.
It doesn't feel like you're losing a lot when you lose. Being kicked out to another sector is not that bad. Losing buildings means nothing.
Yeah.
So it's really just about controlling areas and losing victory points.
It doesn't.
even then, because you've got this mechanic with losing influence, if you attack a planet, you lose all your influence there.
Yeah.
If it's an inhabited planet, and the uninhabited planets are worth so few victory points, you really need to focus on the inhabited planets. So I like that it sort of gives you these options to get different victory points that are done in different ways, either by playing action cards and going sort of a diplomacy route, or conquering planets. I like that you can conquer the planet and then gain influence on it, which leaves you sort of in a difficult position if someone comes and conquers it later.
Well, that was the funny thing, because that exactly happened with us. I had Measle 3, I had Tanlock, and then I was like, right, I've got influence in both of them because of how it had gone. Both of those got conquered, and I know me trying to take them back will cost me exactly what it takes that I'm winning anyway. So I just want to keep influence.
Yeah. So because you just
I don't want to
nulling out one for the other.
Yeah, and that would cost me an action. Potentially, I'd lose that as well. And it's quite funny because it came down to there are cards that let you gain influence instead of going. And if you know that you want influence, there is very little reason to attack.
But one thing I note as well is that you had the control here, and you also had the ally on Measle 3. You didn't leave any units there to defend it.
I did.
You had more units here than on Measle 3.
I was going to say there was a hefty amount here.
There was only 2 Starfarers, which is not that many. But...
I mean, I left the Warbot, which is the equivalent of 2 Starfarers.
Right.
But in all honesty,
almost.
I mean, I had 4 things on my ship, plus the Star Sloop, and I didn't have anyone else. I didn't have any other recruits. That's the thing. I mean, you guys ended up having a lot more units on the table than I did because of how you said, and
because we were building more cities than you. We had more money.
Yeah, but it was also I looked and went, I can have a world ship that can do a lot and take me places because I knew I wasn't going to. I knew in the time it would have taken me to get to here to take some of your places. It's very clear what I'm doing, and I think that kind of made me think it's not really. It's more worth me having influence there than having control of it, because on every world, the victory points for influence is the same as for control, and if I've got influence, I've got the ally, and that's better.
Yeah, you've got the additional.
Which was funny because, as you say, my guys were very combat orientated. The fact I've got an upgrade that allows me to re-roll a dice only works in combat.
It's almost like it's a game of two halves, isn't it? It's like at the start, because they have the goods on them.
Yeah.
You almost want to
aggressive
expansion at the start, and then when they've all gone and all those goods have been taken, it's almost like, oh well, you've got to change tack a little bit because there's now not much point to attack. I might as well try and use my influence.
That's where all of these cards that I had were all about influence. There was not a single one of them that needed me to really fight a conflict. So I had this one, which is put an influence on Measle 3. This one, influence on Arzos.
But that one gets you bits and credits. I mean, delivery gets you everything.
Yeah, but I got
good.
that on the last turn.
That was actually something.
That one I was looking forward to, but I'd have lost the tie with you.
So you're talking about being able to gain influence.
Yeah.
Was there anything else you wanted to say about that?
I thought at first it was going to be very difficult because even if you conquer the territory, there isn't a lot of there's no way outside of a card to gain influence for being there. So it felt a bit strange to me at the start that I've taken over a planet and I have no way of building influence on it, other than I've gotten those those power cards, and I flip over the right set. The delivery mission I got at the start was so much more useful for me, because although I ended up conquering the places, I did that as much because I wanted the resources on it. I started there, took Measle 3, and then instantly going, right, I'm getting there.
Well, that sort of leads me into my next point, actually, because I actually have a technology I can upgrade as a human that allows me to get a VIP for delivery. And I also have this one here that lets my world ship move in extra space.
Yeah.
So I was thinking a good strategy would be to do deliveries.
Yeah.
And throughout the whole course of the game, I had one delivery card.
Yeah, I had
and
about
actually
5.
That really hampered me because it was really good, and I didn't want to discard it. And being unable to discard it meant that I couldn't go into battles when it was my last card. It meant
you wanted to keep
I
it.
had to take a refresh action if I wanted to keep it. I actually really didn't like the delivery cards, or rather, I didn't like the way they weren't
Dictate
mixed
so
into
much.
this. I didn't like how powerful they were, and I didn't like the fact that I could. My board seems to indicate that it would be a good strategy for me to go down, but then they seemed so situational. And maybe I was just really unlucky, only getting one card for the whole game.
I mean,
but they're really, really, really good.
Yeah,
and
I think partly
I didn't get any.
Partly your problem was you didn't invest in bases. That's all I built. So I had a place there.
That's true.
I had a place there that gave me an
bases,
extra power card, and then my guys, all bases mean that you'll have 5 if you upgrade far enough. I had an extra one from an upgrade that's incredibly cheap to do, and then I had an extra one from there. So
you get the opportunity to get more.
By the end, as you can see, I was swimming in cards.
Yeah, I didn't hardly have any.
You were very lucky to get this one here. Early on.
But even if I'd not got that, building bases was. I could see you guys were going for cities, and I found it funny. No one went for an academy.
That's because I had the Empire card that gave me bonus points for cities.
Thing is, you see, I went for cities because one of my. Did you say Empire card? One of my Empire cards was
city based.
City based because if I'd got all my cities out, then it got me an additional 3 victory points.
But both of mine at the start have recruit people. So
you were very lucky to get 2 that basically had the same condition.
Well, that was the thing. The first one I got was the 3-point one for have 3 different allies, and then when I did one of the recruits, I got gain 2 allies. So I was like, I'll keep that one and not the other one. The other one was good, but it was less of a sure thing. So I was like, in order to get my 3, I have to get the 2. So I'm going to keep those 2. But the other one was good. I just threw it away.
And it was almost like by the time the scoring came halfway through, that's why I knew when you were like, oh, have you reached your condition? I was like, no way, because I'd not done enough battling, because I'd not recruited enough, I couldn't do as many battles because I knew I wouldn't win. So, and it's only when when you win the planets is when you can start building the cities.
Yeah.
So that's why I was thinking I was a little bit on the back foot, because I faffed around too much at the start, I think, just trying to work out what my strategy was.
But I wonder if building bases and drawing these power cards is a very, very strong strategy, because I noticed, because you had so many cards, you were able to do all of your technological research.
Yeah.
Because you could pay for all that power.
Yeah.
And that's 6 victory points if you don't count any of the bonuses they give you. And one of the things I noticed, Michael, is actually that you get a lot of bonus points for researching all of your technologies, and you only researched 1.
Yes.
And so you had this challenge because you had to build all your cities. You didn't build any bases. Because you didn't build any bases, you didn't really have the cards to do the technologies. But you get 3 victory points if you've done all of your technologies.
Yeah.
This one gives you 4 credits every time you do a technology, which means you don't even need to build cities because you're getting credits for doing technologies.
Which also would have worked amazingly with this one.
So really what you should have done, and this is a thing I think, is like the Empire cards not gelling with the inherent strategies of the races. Because this leads me into my next point, which is that when I play the Ryan Lockett games, I always feel like they're really good at telling stories. Obviously, Above and Below has a storybook. So does Near and Far. They actually have storybooks. Yeah. But I feel like even playing something like 8-Minute Empire, which just has little cubes moving around a tiny map, you still kind of get this impression of sort of wars and epic battles, and it's kind of cute because the board is so small. But in this, we have these races, and they're so sort of characterized with these unique models.
But there's not any story attached to them, is there?
Well, I kept expecting like an emergent story to come out, but it just never really felt like it did. It felt like all these things were happening, but every single time I felt like I was really optimizing points and not really getting any, like these events seemed sort of weirdly abstract and didn't seem to sort of tell a story. And it's so funny because they all have flavor text on.
Yeah.
But it never seemed to manifest. And I don't know if maybe that's because we were sort of, focused on playing cards, or we weren't.
Well, the thing with that as well, though,
there's flavor text on all the planets as well. I've only just noticed it.
No, but it's also. We read the Corlozan one because it made us laugh.
A bizarre melting pot of species from.
A wormhole nearby.
Yeah, where is it?
And it's
well, I guess that was this one.
Well, no, but that got made by you. But I would have expected that to be there because the wormhole's next to it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's
the Mazrons have evolved an immunity to the toxic-covered atmosphere of their half-abandoned, factory-covered planet.
Mm. But the thing I found funny is we're not mentioned in any of this.
Through the surface,
we are all interlopers, clearly.
Yeah.
Like we're not from any of these places.
Yeah.
But just
it's like, how did we get here?
Just going back to what Mike said that made me laugh. I think I played as if I was you, and you might have played as if you were me. Because
Probably.
I went heavy research, and my guys are slightly a kind of militaristic, and you guys got all the research bonuses.
Yeah, your guys are definitely more military focused because you've got the extra card draw that helps with battling. You've got the extra income which helps with recruiting,
extra
and
unit.
you've got the re-roll a die. You've got the extra unit.
I think I was struggling because, like we were saying at the start, you've got to go to your planets, haven't you, to try and get these. And I remember you. It wasn't quite at the start because you didn't have it yet, but I remember a few times you were going to planets and picking up bits, and I'm like, damn it, I want to do that because then I could have started doing these things.
Right, because you didn't have the goods to do the research.
But the thing with that is you got quite unlucky on the first turn by not being able to conquer. I mean, I when I was rolling for your opponent,
but
that's very unlucky with that.
That's just a die roll, isn't it?
No, but because your faction isn't combat orientated.
Yes.
Like if I'd have done that, I didn't have the reroll by then, but I might, if I had your resource, I definitely would have had it by then. I'm like, I rolled crap. Roll again. Go for another go. And that's the thing is, even in the early game, like me fighting them was laughable. Like you've got one dice and you've got one. I am not losing that. It's a garbage planet. It's worth nothing, but it's mine, and I got resources for it. Then they're quite good because they're -1 to your die, and they've got 2 dice themselves, so they out die rolled you. They took you down to 2, and it's funny because some of the attacks are quite difficult. I mean, I sort of almost hamstrung myself there when I started with Measle 3, and I was like, this could go very quickly against me, but I rolled a 6. So I was like, yes.
Yeah.
So it's funny because in the early game you're much more vulnerable to the effects of the inhabitants.
Yeah.
Later on, you can very easily compensate.
Yeah.
Yeah. Looking at these technologies here that we were doing, well, obviously you kind of just ignored them, even though they're kind of your thing because you're the Academy of Eve. And I'm the Nomads of Earth, and mine are, I think, very tradey, but
scavengy.
They're also quite sort of open. They're quite the world ship move +1.
Yeah,
a VIP per delivery, a VIP per ally token, and pick up 1 good while moving. They don't really sort of focus you on anything. They're just kind of all things to do.
You say that though, but I say again, if you'd have invested in more bases, then you'd have been like, right, I've got 2 extra cards to draw.
Are all of these the same?
I think they're all the same bonuses.
I think they are.
I don't think they change. That's the thing. I think they're all the same for everyone. This is what levels it out.
I would have really liked... I mean, for a start, the bonuses should not be printed under the tokens. That's just annoying because then you can't see what you get for building it. I didn't realize you got extra victory points for building these buildings.
And neither did I, to be fair. I just saw that on the coin. Ooh, coins are going up. Therefore,
but you both had.
In all honesty, I noticed it when we put the board down. That's the only reason.
Okay.
So, and but I think like this, for example. I mean, extra VIP for a delivery could be great, but then I need to get deliveries. There's no guarantee if I build bases I'm going to get
a delivery.
No,
but you'll have more chance.
So it is on me for not optimizing my opportunity to do that. That's absolutely true.
However, for not optimizing, you did really bloody well.
Well, I just kind of put my fingers in all the pies, really, so to speak. I did 3 of my 3. So I did feel like. I guess what I'm saying is that because this is all the same and. I guess the only way these races are really given any character other than aesthetic character is via these technological bits.
Because they're the bits that are different.
They're the bits that are different. And even then, we all have the same 2 ignore hazards and hire warbots. So it's just these 4 that are different.
It would be interesting if the other character... I wonder if the other characters... Because we just picked these 3 characters at random, didn't we?
Yeah.
I wonder if the other characters have the same...
But there is one that has an extra slot on their warship, and yours has a slightly cheaper slot on your warship.
Yeah, instead of 2, it's 1.
I would have liked to see... I guess maybe I'm just spoiled by other games, but I would have liked to see a much bigger distinction between the races.
I mean, it's funny because, as you say, there's no backstory to any of them, so we were just inventing what we thought. I saw these when we got them out, and I was like, Robot Men, go for it. I had no idea.
I actually think you're like armored insect people.
I had no idea. I went for. I mean, it would make sense if they were armored insects. Well, no, I'd say that's more insectile than avian, but it's just the fact of there's nothing to tell you anything about them. I mean, Nomads of Earth was easy. We were just like, oh, they clearly broke Earth. That's why they left, and the background is a desert. So
yeah,
but there's nothing to give you any idea of what these guys are like, or even a clue. Is in a lot of games where they go, this is the militaristic faction. It's mentioned in their fluff. These guys are warriors. They're this. They're this. They're this. Your guys, we went for. They are the nerdy guys because it's the academy.
Yeah.
And mine are the legions. So,
but I mean, if you look at Michael's technologies, they're also very clearly like sort of based on doing technologies. You know, plus you get rewarded for doing all technologies.
Yeah.
You also have this. I think I'm very surprised you didn't get that. This is really good.
Yeah.
Plus
that is the other
point.
But the thing is, you see, I was.
You're looking for life signs or whatever.
And I didn't get them for ages.
Yeah.
I would say one thing, just because.
Oh my god! Because
this was on the back. It does tell you what the other abilities are there. So you've got World Ship Lab, Warp. We've all got Warbots. We've got Spore Pack, Nanopacking. I had Nanopacking. Someone else must have Spore Pods. Scavenger Bots was yours. Parasites.
I like Parasites. What is
Linguistics sounds interesting.
I had Linguistics.
Gene splicing.
I even researched that.
Yeah, gene splicing, enhanced reflex, energy matrix. Cybernetics I had that one. No, Thingy had that one, didn't he? Michael had that one.
What's that, sorry?
And,
Cybernetics, yeah, that's me.
Yeah,
but again, he didn't research it.
When you draw 2 Empire cards, keep both of them. So there does seem to be some variety in the other factions, but it all comes down to those 4. And it feels... It's a fun game. It's surprisingly quick.
Yeah, for a 4X game, it's very quick. Yeah. I mean, I think it takes a long time to learn it if you're learning it from the rule book.
Yeah,
I think if someone's teaching you, it's actually not too bad.
Yeah, I do think this might have benefited from these are some example rounds we're going to take you through, because a lot of board games, because they've got such a steep learning curve, they'll put in this is how you play the game. This doesn't count as the game, but we're going to take you through a couple of turns of it. Just follow what we say, and you pick it up from doing it. And I think this might have benefited from that. I did like the game. I think maybe I kind of set the pace because I went all nuts for the power cards, and we might have got more out of it if I wasn't forcing the pace quicker.
Yeah, you were drawing a lot of power cards.
But in the way I looked at things, the sooner once I had it to a point, the sooner the game ended for me, the better.
Yeah, I mean, if you'd ended the game when it was with Michael to pick a refresh or whatever, if you'd just gone refresh and ended the game there, you would have won by a much higher margin. The fact that you let it go for a whole nother round,
and that's the thing. I think
was what gave me the opportunity to creep back in.
Yeah, I think it was fun to do that, and in all honesty, I just wanted to see if I could beat the Regency.
Yeah.
If I was playing for, I really, really want to win, and I just want to screw the rest of it, I would have just refreshed then and done it, and it would have been like, right, game over. I would have had Measle 3. I think I'd have still had Tanlock then. I don't remember.
I wouldn't have had the opportunity to get there.
No, but as in, I would have had it and had the influence. I'd have had Measle 3 influence, but not. So that was potentially 9 more points that you guys didn't get. So I'd have just been like, right, end the game now because I'm done. But I think part of that was me forcing the pace. I do find it a bit funny. The victory points for each of these is the same. There's no distinct, there's no benefit whatsoever to going, I'm going to invest in academies, because although you don't get an immediate impact, it's worth more at the end. It seems very scaled. I mean, the only thing I would say is the command tokens. Having the first academy is quite funny because, well, you just get a command point and a victory point, a command point and a victory point.
The command points are really good because I think it's not just about moving. Command points allow you to be much more flexible about what actions you want to take.
Yeah, and that's the thing. If I'd have had more command points, right at the end, I'd have been like, right, and I'm going to do this and this and this. But in order to take any action, I then only had 1 command point left, which wasn't enough to do the card. So maybe that would have been something to do differently.
Maybe.
But I mean, I don't think I did it badly.
It's like what you were saying as well. You know, when you were saying, "Oh, you were really surprised I didn't do that." It's all about the cards that you've got in your hand, and you were like, "Oh, well, I have this delivery card that I really want to keep, and so do I really want to spend 4 influence on doing that?
Yeah.
Where I could just go and build a base instead." And so it's all weighing up what you
so
think
the
you
game,
should do.
I think the game did a really effective job of making every decision important. What you want from a game is to have decisions that are really, really important and really, really difficult. I felt a little frustrated by how many... I felt really limited at times in a bad way. I don't know. I think... for example, I got 3 star sloops out, right? I don't think either of you built even a second star sloop.
No, I didn't build one.
No.
And despite having 3 star sloops, it didn't feel like having them benefited me at all. I felt like the move and attack action was almost always better to move the mother world. So
and you can only move 1 at a time, can't you?
And because during the move attack you can only move 1 group. It just felt like building those star sloops really, I couldn't find the benefit of it.
To be honest, the fact that they're not worth any attack as well, all they do is carry other stuff. I mean, I just went for, I'm keeping everything on my mothership. I don't care. My world ship is enough. That's what I'm going to send to do everything.
But that's my I think that the part of the problem is that the world ship is enough. You know, and you can leave units lying around, you can leave star sloops lying around to allow them to sort of reinforce other planets and do all that stuff. Yeah. And I actually like that idea. I feel like leaving units on planets to defend them should be really important and really cool. And you actually, I think,
completely ignored it.
You completely ignored it, and it cost you points.
It did.
But I feel like because the move action, just the move action, is one of these 5 incredibly important actions and costs you these incredibly important command points, and then you can only move 1 group, it just feels like you're not really given the flexibility to actually move these units around and respond to potential attacks. Because you can just move with impunity through other people's units, it doesn't really feel like... it feels like I'd be better off recruiting a huge army of guys and just leaving them lying around on important defensible positions than building star sloops and using them to sort of ferry units around to sort of respond to my opponent's movements.
Which is ironic, considering you're the faction that gets a free move.
Well, I just would have... what I would have liked to see... Well, but only on my world ship.
No, but the fact that you wouldn't need to spend a move on your world ship.
I mean, I'd be much better off with your bioneural network, which gives you a command thing, which is essentially a movement, but can be used for any unit.
Yeah, no, that's true.
But mine was just for my world ship, so maybe I should have focused more on just moving my world ship around, collecting goods, and sort of getting influence.
Don't steal my tactic. It's all I've got.
But I just felt like the movement of units was so limited. We just kind of camped up in sort of weird places. Like, you left 2 guys here to defend this position, and if that unknown tile had been weaker,
anything else
had been less important, this would have been really dumb. Yeah. But you just never had the opportunity to move them. It never made sense to move them. I would have much rather see like a move action allow you to move all of your groups that can possibly move. So if you've got 4 sloops or 3 sloops in a mothership, 4 things that can move 4 things. You can still be limited by the command points.
Yeah, you could have moved each one or something like that.
Yeah, that would have just... I feel like that would have just made it much more flexible and make the star sloops feel much more worthwhile.
Yeah.
And maybe they should have been more expensive if that's the case, but I still just felt like there was... Because I had some really good units camped here and here to protect my cities, because I got points for controlling cities. On my Empire card. But to be honest, you guys didn't seem any interest in taking these planets. And there was many points during the game where I wanted to move these units, and I had the ships to do it, and I just couldn't because moving was too difficult. Moving ships around the board was too difficult, and it just never seemed optimal.
Yeah, because you
wanted
to do something else or fight something or
there was always... It's not even that. It's not that I wanted to do something else, exactly what you said, but there was always a more optimal move. Yeah. And it just meant that moving those things around just felt weak. And that was disappointing.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I suppose the question is, would you play this again?
Well, that is the question, Ollie. Would I play this again?
because I would like to play this again.
Yeah, you?
Yeah, I would do. I think it would be. I mean, it'd be fun if we had a different player dynamic. So if we picked different units, or if there was different number of people, because one of the things I think really comes up is if you've got an idea in your mind of how to win, you will try to fit your army around it. Whereas if you look and see how is this going to win, and I'll follow that, you can have two very different play experiences. So, I mean, next time I'd be like, well, what's it like if I just go full on militaristic and just try and batter the crap out of the galaxy? That would be a very different game to this, and I think that's fun that you don't have to win in one way. And there are some games that you can play, and every faction has the equivalent of one way to win. And if you don't do that, you're going to lose, unless your opponents are really bad, which it's a stupid thing to rely on. This way, at least, we all had at least 2, maybe 3 ways of winning, depending on what was drawn, what empire cards you got, and how you thought you should play it, which I like. I mean, it's kind of back down to the lack of major diversity between them, is that you're not hobbled by playing a style that you aren't good at. You're not forced to be the guy who has to fight every single battle and win because you have no other way of winning, which is kind of nice. But I mean, that's balancing being able to change a playstyle with having an individualized faction.
Yeah.
So it's a delicate balance to do, but I kind of like the fact that you don't have to follow one path.
I like the flexibility, but I think ultimately what this comes down to, and I would play it again. I would play it again if someone got it down off the shelf and said, I really want to play this, or I love this game, let's play it. I'd be like, yeah, sure. But to be honest, for me, if I was going to play a 4X space game where I wanted to do territory control and battle and sort of civ building, I would have 2 options that I would pick over this. If I wanted to do combat and conflict and that kind of focus, I'd pick Eclipse. And if I wanted to do action selection and sort of really deep strategy stuff and not really worry about territory control so much or conflict, I'd pick Gaia Project.
True. I mean, I think partly this could change depending on when these come out, because these could have a very
there's a
big
huge
impact.
amount of variance and replayability here.
No, but
yeah.
I mean, like if it was in the rules that say you have these, instead of shuffling them into that deck, it's a specified amount of, like, after you've drawn X amount of cards, flip the first one, then flip the second one, because then we had most of these come out in the last quarter of the game.
Yeah, they took a while to come,
and it was too late to do it to have any impact by then. I mean, the Santina one came out after I'd already done all my research. I'm the one that drew it, and it's get bonus for research.
But yeah. I don't think that the order in which the events come out, or even the events themselves, because there's like 5 or 6 per planet.
No, but I just mean if they had a fixed thing of at random, one of them will come out sooner. So then we're more interested in what's going on there, and we might be like, oh crap, that's come out, and I've got territory near there. I'll go towards that, because it encourages you all to focus on one area. It took so long for them to come out that by that point we'd all settled into where we were on the board, and we just didn't care.
But even then, I think, like, the thing is, you sort of, the game will reward you for picking a sort of a strategy and going towards it, especially with the Empire cards, which you're scored in the middle of the game and at the end of the game.
Yeah.
So you're sort of, if you pick a strategy that plays into your Empire cards, you're going to be rewarded for it, because you're going to score them twice at points after you've developed that strategy. And so it gives you very little room to be reactionary. And that means that when event cards come out, they're either sort of convenient and suit you, or they don't. Like, we ignored the vast majority of them.
Well,
and the one you didn't... Well, yeah, and the one you didn't ignore didn't even affect your gameplay in the end.
Well, it got me my researches, and it got me my last base. That, because, I mean, by that point, all the metal was gone.
Yeah, that's true.
So I would say that one held importance for me, because I needed it for 2 things. But I mean, I didn't know that was going to be the thing that dragged me over the finish line.
Oh, that's true.
But I thought it was a fun game as well. To be fair, I'm really in 2 minds.
Yeah, I was going to say, actually, just really quickly about that sort of the event cards and stuff. And I still feel like, because the game rewards you for sort of the Empire cards and locking in, and because moving is so difficult, despite the fact that everything is sort of open, to an extent anyway, it still feels like it still feels like it's very sort of difficult to react to that other stuff.
I guess. I still love the fact you didn't invest in cloaking technology. The amount you were trying to move around, and you were like, "Oh, I just don't care that there's a thing there."
But it didn't
really affect you, though.
Really affect
that
me
was
that
my,
much.
that was my first buy. It's like, I've got metal cloaking field, please.
What do you think?
I am really in two minds whether I genuinely don't know if I'd want to play it again.
I feel like even though there was a lot of difficulty to the choices, I didn't feel like I felt like there was always an apparent optimal choice.
Yes, it felt.
Or rather, it wasn't even that.
It wasn't that. You had to do something. It's like.
Do you know what it was? It was because 2 out of every 3 actions you're taking are not your choice.
Yes.
And so
because you're reacting to something.
Yeah, and the 2 command things feel really costly. And again, yes, you can mitigate for that by building academies, but that means you're not building cities and not building bases. So you can't mitigate for everything.
No.
You can only sort of make a choice about what you mitigate for. And it really felt like I was always trying to make the sort of the most optimal choice of a inoptimal situation.
I think that's a very good way of summarizing it. Definitely, I felt like I was very limited. I had to go down. There was 3 things that I wanted to do, but I couldn't because I had to do one thing in order to. In
all honesty, I felt that
go down a particular route or to stop something from happening, or at times I felt very frustrated that I couldn't do what actually I wanted to do because I was forced down an alleyway. But whether that's my game,
I felt that too. I felt that too because the game really rewards you for optimizing stuff, especially because you've got these 3 sort of resources that you have to optimize, which is your cards, your money, and your command points. And the refresh action, which refreshes all of those, is 1 of 3 you're going to take per round. And so writing off one of those is sort of a big deal. And I'm the kind of player that wants to be super optimal all the time. But I realized very quickly in this game that I can't do that, and I let it go.
Your favourite words are action economy.
But it still feels like it's frustratingly suboptimal most of the time. And I'm still taking like the best worst choice. And I'm not really able to do what I want to do.
Correct.
And if I'm going to do what I want to do, I'm going to have to sacrifice
something.
so much to get there that it's just not worth it.
100%.
You know?
I totally agree.
I know what you mean.
But I know, like you said, I think if someone, like if you brought it off the shelf and was like, oh, I love this game, it hasn't put me off playing it again, but I
wouldn't choose it.
Correct.
I wouldn't choose it.
And
I don't think
I'd buy it.
Yeah. Which is a shame because I basically have all of Ryan Lockett's other games. I missed Empires of the Void because I sort of came to his collection later. So,
but I love his other ones.
See, I think I'd play this again, purely to see would it be like this game.
To see how much different it would be.
Yeah, I'd want to play at least once more to see that. But
yeah, I agree. I mean, what I mean is, I would be interested from an academic point of view.
Yeah.
But then again, I think it does offer you a nice compromise between, say, something like Gaia Project, which is another space exploration game, but very, very heavy Euro, and something like Eclipse, which is sort of a bigger 4X game. It takes longer to play, and it's a bit more involved. It does sort of fill a very particular niche, and it is fast to play. But I also think that the learning curve might actually make up for a lot of the speed in which the game can be played. So unless you're interested in playing it more than once, I don't know how much economy you would get out of that.
Yeah, I guess.
There's a lot of investment.
And the unspoken one that is, of course, also there's Race for the Galaxy, which is another good one, and also Twilight Imperium, which is the 8-hour all-day epic.
Oh, come on, we've spent 8 hours playing a game before.
Yeah, I mean, Twilight Imperium is a really, really great game. They've just come out with their 4th edition, which makes it tighter and cleans up a lot of the rules, and it's got a great diplomatic element, a bit like Rising Sun.
Ooh.
So, Twilight Imperium is, I mean, I would definitely play that over this, but of course this plays in less than a quarter of the time, so You know, I could
Depends
play
what you
this
want.
like 4 or 5 times in the time it takes to play that. So it depends, I suppose, on your priorities as well.
Yeah. I suppose as well, like a lot of the Warhammer stuff is beer and pretzel sort of thing. Where
I would have liked to see a bit more character. These event cards, I would have liked to see them sort of have sort of more of an actual event.
To be honest,
You know,
I found the delivery cards I was getting were hilarious for that, because the ones I was discarding, it's like I had Measle 3 full influence and I had control of it, and I lost control of it and I've got the influence, and one of my deliveries was essentially kidnap the president of there, deliver him to there, lose all of your influence there, gain it there. And it's like,
I don't know
that
if
was
it was
the worst
just
card for me to
because
draw.
there's a lot of text on these cards, and because the flavor text is the exact same sort of color and font as the main text, I don't know, I just ignored it all. And usually I'm quite into the flavor and the sort of the world, but maybe I was too focused on trying to optimize my suboptimal moves. I just didn't seem to pick up on any of the fluff and any of the story. And one of the things actually I want to mention before we wrap this up is just how beautiful Ryan Lockett's art is.
Yeah.
The game is beautiful. All the art is beautiful. Everything has a lot of character. I love that. But I just didn't feel like I had the time to really appreciate it, and I didn't feel like the flavor came out that allowed me to appreciate it.
Fair enough.
And again, like, there's flavor text on all these worlds that I just missed. The Celestians were almost wiped out by a genetically engineered disease. Now only a few thousand remain. That's cool, even though they were part of the
Yeah.
Empire.
Maybe that's why they joined the Regency.
The Regency, right? Yeah, they were part of the.
But yeah, I mean that's part of the thing. But
Well, I think that pretty much
wraps it up.
Wraps up our rundown of Empires of the Void 2. So don't, if you haven't joined us for our playthrough, I hope you will check that out and see, the game for yourself and see what you think of it. And, leave a comment below if you've played it and what you think about the game. And
You might totally disagree with us.
Yeah, exactly. And if you want to see us play one of these other space games I've mentioned, please, we've obviously played Gaia Project, so you can go check out our playthrough of that. We've also played Star Trek Ascendancy and Star Trek Fleet Captains, all of which are sort of space explorations with sort of elements of 4X, so you can go and check out all of those. And there is an Eclipse 2nd edition box coming out this year, so if you'd like to see us play that, leave a comment, let me know. I might pick that up and play it with you guys and see what you think.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we'll be back tomorrow for a completely new adventure. And thanks for coming on this one.
See ya.
See you guys.
See ya, Space Cowboy.
Yeah.